In Dragon the Bruce Lee story, there's a scene in Thailand on the last day of filming for The Big Boss where Johnny Sun's brother Luke challenges Bruce Lee to a fight. Now, Bruce Lee beat the brakes off of Luke, but then he rips open the camera and starts tearing up the film. Y'all know the scene that I'm talking about? What if I told you that that really happened? You definitely want to hear the story about Bruce Lee's real fight that he never wanted anyone to see. So I've had a lot of people ask me about this fight in Dragon the Bruce Lee story. Did Bruce Lee really fight some guy in Thailand and then tear up some of the film from The Big Boss? Is there a missing scene from The Big Boss where Bruce Lee had a real fight? Some of these questions come from some confusion about the actual missing scenes from The Big Boss, where Bruce Lee splits a dude's head open with a saw during the ice factory fight. And then there's this other missing scene that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about in this video. But Bruce Lee had a nude scene where he hooked up with a second lady at that place where people go to do the things with their drinking companions in Thailand. But as for the fight with Luke's son, yeah, that didn't exactly happen. Johnny and Luke's son were characters that they made up for the movie, and I guess it's so they wouldn't have any legal problems from Wong Jack Man. So if Luke's son wasn't a real person, then how come I said that there really was a fight like the one in Dragon the Bruce Lee story? Well, see, the real fight didn't happen while Bruce was filming The Big Boss in Thailand. It actually happened while Bruce was working on Enter the Dragon. When Bruce was filming Enter the Dragon, Warner Brothers came up with an idea to also release a 10-minute documentary on television about the making of Enter the Dragon to promote the movie before its official release. Henry Wong was tasked with recording the footage, and Henry Wong said that he filmed at least 5 hours worth of behind-the-scenes footage, which included Bruce Lee working with the actors for their fight scenes, Bruce Lee teaching martial arts on set to the extras, and even Bruce Lee getting into a few scraps with some of the extras on the set. Now, in a previous video on Bruce Lee's real fights on the set of Enter the Dragon, Henry Wong is on the tennis courts with Bruce Lee's personal assistant, Madalena Chan, where they recalled the fight when the kid challenged Bruce Lee and then proceeded to get his teeth knocked out. Bolo Yeung and the director Robert Kloss also have stories about that particular fight, but whenever Henry Wong talks about the fights he witnessed while filming the behind the scenes of Enter the Dragon, he always mentions a fight that Bruce didn't want anyone to see that's a different incident from the one where the kid got kicked in the mouth. Now, Henry Wong never really went into details of that particular fight in the interviews that I'd read until I just happened to be reading Robert Klaus's book on the making of Enter the Dragon, where Henry Wong went into all of the details around the fight from how it started to its final result. But after I got all of the details, it finally started to make sense why they managed to find a way to slip this story in a Dragon the Bruce Lee story, even though it was nothing like the incident in that Bruce Lee biopic. So this is what really happened with the fight Bruce Lee didn't want anyone to see, and I apologize to you guys because it kind of starts out sounding like one of Beardy's stories, but I promise you, it's coming directly from Henry Wong. Henry Wong said that filming had wrapped for the day, and most of the crew had already cleared out. Robert Kloss, the director, and Chaplin Chong, an assistant director, they were both already gone. Well, this extra came over to ask Bruce Lee for help with a kick that he was trying to learn, and Wong called the extra Kelefe, which is a word I've only heard from Alex Richter on the Kung Fu Genius podcast. It means extras on the set, but it can also mean a nobody or an unimportant person. And I just think it's funny that we're calling this guy who got into a fight with Bruce Lee a nobody, Kelefe, because at this point, no one remembers his name or anything. Well, anyway, the extra's asking Bruce for help with the kick, like I said, and Bruce is taking time out to teach this guy, but at some point, Bruce is like, "Hey, dog, it's been real, keep it trill, but I gotta bounce." Well, the extra says, "No, I want to show you what I've learned. Why don't you fight me?" And Bruce, he shakes his head, he's saying, no fight, I'm done, I gotta bounce, dog, for real. So the extra calls Bruce a coward, and he's all like, "Well, come at me, bro." Well, at this point, there's other extras who are still around watching the whole thing. This dude's mom is there to get him and take him home, and she's watching too. But look, y'all, I love Asian culture. I mean, heck, I live in Asia. My wife and kids are Asian. Well, my daughter's half, but I mean, just go with it. My nieces and nephews that I take care of, they're Asian. So I love Asian culture. But One thing I don't like about Asian culture is this whole giving and saving face thing. Now, y'all who deal with this stuff in martial arts or maybe with family, y'all know exactly what I mean. If you can hear my daughters agreeing with me in the background, I hope I can cancel that out of the video later, but if you hear it, it means I didn't. But anyway, Bruce Lee got caught up in one of those situations where he didn't want to fight this kid, but it's like if he walks away, they both end up losing face. So to save face, Bruce agrees to fight with this Kelefe. Well, the fight didn't last very long at all. Henry didn't give the details on the fight at all, but he said Bruce Lee kicked the guy and broke his ribs. Fight over. My daughter's laughing at the part where I said Bruce Lee broke the kid's ribs. But after that, well, Bruce Lee felt bad for him, so he gave him money to go to the hospital, and then he gave the guy's mom about $4,000 US and an apology for breaking her son. And well, Bruce sees Henry with his camera, and he asks if it was rolling because if it is, he wants Henry to get rid of the film. And well, Henry says he can't get rid of it because he shot other things that day, and even if he didn't, it's technically not his property, so he can't destroy it. He has to go process the film. And that's where we got this story of Bruce getting into a fight on the set of a movie and then trying to destroy the film so that no one would see what really happened. Bruce stayed behind to give this kid a personal kung fu lesson, and then he tried to walk away when the kid disrespected him, but nothing worked and ended up breaking the guy's ribs with a kick. Now, I know with all of these stories about fights on the set of Enter the Dragon, it might sound like Bruce Lee was some kind of a bully who was going around fighting the extras all the time, but this wasn't the case at all. What I've learned is that pretty much all of the extras were triad members. Some of them belong to rival triad groups. And I mean, you just had quite a few knuckleheads who were running around who were even trying to fight each other. Sometimes the disrespect got completely out of hand to the point that, hey, Bruce Lee got irritated and he taught a few of them a lesson, but he didn't really respond to the majority of the times that he was challenged. The truth is that, minus a few knuckleheads on set, Bruce was really loved by the guys on the set. When the folks from Warner Brothers were eating meals at some of the fancy hotel restaurants, Bruce was with the extras eating rice and barbecue pork. Bruce was chewing out the people in charge of catering for not giving the guys enough meat in their meals. Bruce was always fussing at Raymond Chow to get extra pay for some of the guys who were working really hard. Some of the stories from some of these other Bruce Lee channels, they make it sound like Bruce Lee was fighting people every day on the set. I've even seen one video that's claiming Bruce Lee fought one of the actual stuntmen who was really a guy who knew Bruce Lee growing up. He was literally like one of Bruce Lee's little brothers. Bruce told him to start doing kung fu movies with him. And I mentioned that guy who was Tony Liu as being like a little brother to Bruce Lee because pretty much everyone viewed Bruce Lee as their big brother. Even the guys who got out of line and had to get smacked up, from the stories that I've heard, Bruce didn't want them to get fired even though they tried to fight him. If he marked them up too much, he was willing to pay for their hospital visit. And in the case of this cat who got his ribs broken, Bruce gave his mother enough money to take care of that guy's family for a hot minute. $4,000 US in 1973 adjusted for inflation has the buying power of almost $28,000 today. So that's just something to think about when you hear some of these stories about Bruce Lee fighting people behind the scenes of Enter the Dragon. He didn't want anyone to know the details of the fights, and he always took care of the guys who got smacked up. Now, I know there might be a few people feeling disappointed because they were hoping I'd say, hey, you know what? That fight with Luke's son, it absolutely happened while Bruce Lee was filming The Big Boss. Or maybe they were hoping to hear Bruce Lee really fought a Thai boxer and then tore up the film so it wouldn't make it into the final cut of the movie. But, I mean, unfortunately, that didn't happen because, like I said, Luke's son was a character created for dragging the Bruce Lee story, and I don't think Bruce Lee had any real fights with Thai boxers that didn't make it into the movie for whatever reason. There's no big conspiracy out there. But here's something I will tell you. Bruce did have some challenges while working on The Big Boss. Of course, there's Bruce Lee's phone conversation with Daniel Lee, where he says he saw Thai boxing up close while he was in Thailand. There's also Bay Logan's story about Bruce Lee and a Thai boxing champion. But it's funny that I mentioned Tony Liu earlier. Tony Liu has an interesting story about Bruce Lee's challenges in Thailand when they were working on The Big Boss. So you'll have to stay tuned for an upcoming video when I talk about what really happened when Bruce Lee was challenged in Thailand on the set of The Big Boss. And if you missed my previous videos about Bruce Lee being challenged on the set of Enter the Dragon, be sure to check out this video on 3 real fights that happened during the filming of Enter the Dragon, or you can check out this other video on the fight from Enter the Dragon that someone managed to capture on film. But anyway, hey guys, I don't really do life updates because they date the videos, but we're about to move into a much bigger place soon, which is why I have a lot of family that y'all can probably hear talking in the background. But like I was saying, I may have to post some videos that don't require a lot of research or editing so that I can get them up quickly. But if you don't see me posting anything for a couple of weeks, it's just because we're moving and we're waiting to get our internet services moved from this apartment to the house. And then I got to get my studio set up. When I'm all set up in the new place, I'll finally be able to finish some of the stuff I've been working on for a long time, like the response to that Bruce Lee Kill Bill theory and actually getting back to the Bruce Lee Interesting Facts series where I can get deeper into telling real stories about Bruce Lee, like telling y'all what I've learned about the Wong Jack Man fight and replying to that Vic Moore nonsense that he's been spewing online. And I'm glad I'll finally be able to get back to training in the new place because Vic Moore's students already don't like me. They'll probably be looking to buy plane tickets to Thailand to fight me after they see what I'm going to say. So while I get these videos out before I start packing up my stuff, I hope y'all keep training, remember to breathe, and come back and holler at me on the next video.